I hope you remember the scenario we discussed earlier in our business intelligence discussion. The supermarket manager wanted to get insights on sales, but he was struggling to do it. Now, the manager has given you an extract of their sales data and he wants you to give him insights using Power BI. You can download the dataset from your course materials. So please download it now because we need to have it open to continue our lesson. As a student who learns business intelligence, you should keep in mind that understanding data is the key. We can use any tool in the world to get insights, but if you don't understand data in the first place, you will not be able to gain valuable insights. So always make sure you understand the data as the first thing. Alright, let's open the dataset using Excel to get an overview of the data. Now that we have our dataset open, let's dive right into it. We have our first column, which is named as the row ID. This gives us an indication of how many rows of data we have in our dataset. If you go to the bottom of the sheet, you can see that we have 1000 data rows. In Excel, you can go to the last record of any column by simply selecting a cell like this and then pressing Ctrl, Shift and down arrow at the same time. Now, the next question we get is, what are these rows? What does a single row represent? If we have a look at the other columns, we can see that per each row, there is an invoice ID, order date, customer ID, customer name and segment. We have some details to identify the store and its location. We also have the items that the store has sold to the customer. In here, bunch of carrots, a ballpoint pen, mechanical pencil. In the third row, we have a bottle of ketchup, sauce, spaghetti, beef, and bread. Then we have the price of these items and the payment method. So by looking at this, we can say that each row represents a sales transaction. In other words, if you buy something from the supermarket, it will result in adding one more row to this dataset. If your friend buys something after you, that will be another new record added to the dataset. I think most of these column names are self-explanatory, so I won't be explaining all of them in detail. But there are few columns I would like to explain more. First, let's look at invoice ID. I hope you have seen that every time a transaction takes place, the POS machine at the supermarket issues a bill. At the same time, there's something which happens inside the POS system that we don't see. At the time of issuing a bill, the POS system generates a unique identifier for it to identify each transaction separately. This identifier could be a number or a mix of letters and numbers. But the important thing is that it is unique per each record. As you can see in our dataset, each row has a different and unique number as the invoice ID. Having a unique ID like this will help us to identify how many records we have, and it will be really helpful for us when we are building our reports. The order date is obviously the date on which the sale took place. Similar to invoice ID, we also have something called the customer ID. This is a way for us to identify customers. Each customer will be assigned a unique ID by the system, which means no two customers will get the same ID. Again, this ID could be a number or a combination of text and numbers. In our dataset, it's a combination of text and numbers. Let's understand it by an example as well. If Alice buys a cookie from the supermarket for the first time, the system will generate a unique invoice ID and a unique customer ID and record the transaction in the database. When Bob comes and buys a pencil, the system will generate a new invoice ID, which is different from the previous one, and also create a unique customer ID for Bob and record the transaction. If Alice comes to the supermarket again to buy a bar of chocolate, the system will generate a new invoice ID because it's a new transaction, but it will use the previous customer ID generated for Alice and use it when recording this transaction. Because Alice is a registered customer in the system, it doesn't need to create a new customer ID again. So now, can you tell me what will happen if Bob comes again and buy a packet of cheese? The system will generate a new invoice ID because it's a new transaction, but it will use the same customer ID generated earlier to identify Bob. Now that we know how unique IDs work in the database, let's get back to our dataset. After the customer ID, we have the customer name and segment. A customer segment is a way to group customers according to their buying patterns. For an example, if you visit the supermarket more often and spend a lot of money, you will be a gold customer. If you go occasionally, you will be a silver customer. But if you go rarely, you will be a bronze customer. Then we have the store ID. This is to identify which supermarket stores all this product. Here we have sales data from multiple supermarket stores. As you can see, we have stores 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We then have the city, state, and the country in which the supermarket is located. Supermarket 1 is located in London, in England, and the country is the United Kingdom. And the supermarket 2 is in Cardiff, Wales. The items column has the items that the customers bought. And the price column has the amount they paid. The payment column indicates their payment method, whether it is card, cash, or e-wallet.